There's this one time I got up really early in the morning. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, got all my hunting gear together, jumped in my truck, and drove out to my hunting spot, and got all my gear out, started heading down, started walking in the field towards the woods to where I wanted to go hunt. And I had my headlamp on at the time so I could kind of see where I was going. Walked into the woods, started heading towards my spot, and I flashed 3 deer. And they knew I was there. I knew they were there, and they didn't care that I was walking through the woods. They just kept on doing what they were doing deer things. So I get to my spot, and these deer are literally like right there. One of these deer were so close I could probably reach out and touch them, and it took everything within me not to notch my bow and should take that deer. But I had an internal struggle that morning at 3, 4 in the morning. I don't know what time it was. It was probably, I think it was like a half hour before sunup. And I had this internal struggle inside me asking, what kind of person are you? And what kind of situation is this? And what does a person like me do in a situation like this? Hey everybody, my name's Corey. Welcome to the Anchored Men Show. We are here to help you become the man that God called you to be. Today, we're going to talk about integrity. What is your integrity? And what is integrity? See, that morning when I was out hunting and I had that internal struggle, I'm going to tell you right now, I could have notched my bow. I could have taken that deer and waited, because that deer was so close, I literally could reach out and almost touch it. I could have waited till sun came up and tracked the deer. But I'm going to tell you, I'm a man of integrity. And the laws say I can't harvest the deer before sunup. And unfortunately, I lost out on a deer. But that's okay, because I got to leave that day knowing that I had my integrity intact. You see, if I wouldn't have done that and I would have taken the deer, what would have happened next time when I out in the woods and I see another deer and it's before sunup? Well, I got away with it the first time. Why can't I get away with it this time? And I don't want to go there. I don't want to be that kind of a person that's breaking the law because I want to get a deer. To me, my integrity is more important. So what is integrity? Integrity is not perfection. You know, you're going to make mistakes. You are going to still sin. So your integrity is not perfection. Integrity means that you live an integrated life. So in every area of your life, you are the same. A lot of times, especially us men, we live a compartmentalized life. So we've got pies. Just think of it as a pie. A nice, yummy pie that you just picked up from Baker Square, and you're ready to dive into it, but you cut it into slices, right? So one slice over here is going to be your work life. You got your family life, your spiritual life, social life, home life. In each one of these different areas in your pie, you act differently. So at work, you might be the type of person that's pushing to move up in the company, or you're around the guys at work and you're telling crude jokes, or you're swearing and cussing and stuff. And then you go to church that night and you're praising God, not swearing, not cussing, and you're putting on a different mask that you're a great Christian churchgoer, right? And then you leave church and you put on a different mask in front of your family when you're leaving the church that night, and you're cussing and swearing at the person who cut you off in the parking lot, or you're getting an argument with your wife on the way home from church. And you've got all these different areas that you act differently in. In Roman Greek times, they would always have an actor, and I believe all the actors back then were all male, so actors would play multiple roles. So they would come out with a mask on their face. And then when they'd play their role, do their role, and then they would leave and put on another mask and come out and play that role. And then they'd go and grab the mask, and they'd switch these masks in and out. And that's where we get the word hypocrisy from. If you are acting different ways in these pies in your life because you've compartmentalized your life, you're being a hypocrite. You are not living an integrated life where you are the same all the time, no matter what. God is more interested in the why of what you do than what you do. In Proverbs 10:9, it says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." Have you ever found yourself doing something, or you did something, and later on you're like, boy, I really hope nobody finds out that I did that? I've done it, been there. That is being a hypocrite. Your integrity is who you are when nobody is looking. So what kind of person are you when nobody's looking? Are you the type of guy who told his wife, "I'm not going to drink any more beer, I'm going to stop drinking," and then she leaves the house, you go crack a beer? Or are you the type of guy who watches inappropriate things when you're home alone, but then later on that day you're at church and you're praising God? Are you the type of person who cuts corners when you're building something at home or you're fixing something at home and you're like, "Hey, I could cut this corner, nobody will ever know"? Problem is you'll know. Authenticity is a part of your integrity, so you need to be authentic in everything that you do. Authenticity means that you are not a fake. It means you do not put on multiple masks. You act the same no matter who you're with or where you are. So if you're going to live a godly life wherever you are. Live a godly life when you're out at the restaurant and the server didn't bring your meal exactly the way you were expecting it to come. Be a godly man. If you have children or grandchildren and you are interacting with them, be a godly man. Treat them the same way you are going to treat your kids and their mother and your kids' mother. Incorporate, be an integrated person, acting the same at all times. I want to clarify, your reputation is not your integrity. Reputation is who you are in public. Integrity is who you are in private when nobody is looking. So growing up in church, like I did, I went to a Pentecostal church growing up, and I hung out with a lot of kids whose parents were prominent people in our church, and the moms would be on the prayer team or whatnot, and you would see them running around with their Bibles, and their Bibles are all marked up and stuff, and they would act one way in church, and they would act like, "Hey, I've got it all together, I've got this great relationship with God, and I'm doing awesome." And then you would go home to their home with your friend, and the mom's yelling and screaming at the dad's yelling and swearing back at the mom, and I remember just thinking to myself, you guys are a bunch of fakes. You act one way in church, and then you come home and you act like a totally different way. That's hypocrisy. I don't want to be a hypocrite. Don't do that. Don't act one way in church and then come home and act a totally different way. Or you act one way and you get in here's a great example. You get in a fight with your wife before you leave for church. And by the time you get to church, you put on a mask saying, "Hey, everything's okay." But yet inside, you're just ripped apart, and your wife's ripped apart, and you both are putting on a mask when you get to church. And yeah, it happens. I know. I've been there. I've done that. We've had arguments before church, and we've put on the masks. How about taking care of that argument before you even get into church, so you don't have to put on the mask? If you don't have integrity, you are a hypocrite. I don't want any one of you to be a hypocrite. I want everyone to live with integrity. So Matthew 23:25-26 says this: "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees! You hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee! Clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside will also be clean. When I think of this verse, I think of a coffee cup. And I don't drink coffee, and I'm sure a lot of you do out there. I tend to drink energy drinks to get my caffeine because I just never been able to drink mud. But some people like drinking mud, and that's their thing. But I think of a coffee cup that you brought out somewhere to your garage or something, and you set the coffee cup down, and you've forgotten about it. A couple weeks later, you were out there, hey, there's my coffee cup. And you pick up the coffee cup and you look inside, and it's all gross and moldy and black and just disgusting. And then if you were to turn the coffee cup sideways, well, hey, it's a nice looking coffee cup. Look back in the cup. That's gross, disgusting, and I'm not drinking that ever again. We're throwing this cup out. And that's what Jesus is saying in the scripture. Hey, you got to take care of your inside. You got to be the same in the inside. Take care of what you believe. Take care of the things that you know are right. Do the right thing. Don't do the easy thing. It's easy to cut corners. It's easy to get mad. It's easy to curse. It's easy to do this and that. But it's not always easy to do the right thing. So do the right thing, because if you do the right thing, that's going to spill over to the things that you do on the outside of your life. It's not what you show on the outside that matters. What really matters is what's on the inside. Proverbs 3:22 says this: the Lord hates people with twisted hearts, but he delights in those who have integrity. Do you have integrity? Well, I don't know. How do I know if I have integrity? Well, we're going to look at this. In Psalm 15, verses 1 through 5 in the Common English Bible, it says this: who can live in your tent, Lord? Who can dwell in your holy mountain? Those first two sentences are really saying, hey, God, who is your friend? Who can get close to you, God? And the answer comes in the next few verses. It says, the person who lives free of blame, does the right thing, and speaks the truth sincerely. Who does no damage in their talk, who does no harm to a friend, who doesn't insult a neighbor, someone who despises those who act wickedly and honors those who honor the Lord. A person with integrity is someone who keeps their promises even when it hurts. Someone who doesn't lend money with interest. Someone who won't accept a bribe against an innocent person. Whoever does these things will never stumble. That part there where it says keeping your promises even when it hurts, that's a tough one. It really is, because how many times have you promised somebody something and it's kind of backfired on you, and you're like, okay, I made a promise. Do I really keep this promise, or do I do something else? You got to keep your promises. You got to have integrity. If you said, here's an example, if you told your baseball team, hey, you guys win this game, I'm going to take y'all to Dairy Queen, or I don't know if everybody has Dairy Queens in their state, but I'm going to take you out for ice cream if you guys win this game. Hey, you win the game, you got to take those kids out for ice cream because you said you were going to do it, and it might hurt your pocketbook. It might, but you got to live with integrity. What is your integrity worth to you? As I was studying this, one of the people I was listening to had this just beautiful story about what their integrity was worth to them. And the gentleman had some bare spots in his lawn, and he went to the I think, Home Depot to pick up some sod for his lawn, and he paid for the sod, and he paid for 20 pieces of sod. Then after he paid for them, he says, well, where do I go pick up this sod? And I said, right over here, drive around here, and it's going to be here sitting on a pallet, right? And he's counting the sod as he's loading it into his vehicle, and he gets almost to 20 pieces of sod. And he said there were 4 more pieces of sod just laying there on the pallet. And he said, I thought to myself, there's 4 pieces left. What if I need more than 20 pieces of sod? I could just load these up. Nobody would know. Plus, it's going to be a hassle to go back in and pay for the sod. And if I just leave them here, they're going to dry out and die anyways. And then he heard this voice inside of him, and I believe that it was his integrity, say, is your integrity worth a piece of dirt? Let that sink in for a minute. Is your integrity worth a piece of dirt? Or is your integrity worth getting closer to God and living a godly life in everything that you do? I don't think I'll ever forget that analogy. Is your integrity worth a piece of dirt? That hurts. So I'm going to ask you, is your integrity worth a ream of paper if you took a ream of paper from work to bring home because you ran out of paper at home? Is your integrity worth the $14.99 that you are using somebody else's password to watch Netflix? I don't even know how much Netflix costs nowadays. I'm just assuming it's $14.99. Is it worth your $14.99? Is your integrity worth stealing something and then getting caught later and going to jail because you stole? When you have integrity, nothing else matters but your integrity. Live a life of integrity. Be a man of integrity, because your integrity at the end of the day is all you got. If I met you walking down the street and you said, hey, Corey, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you $1 million if you let me watch your kids. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to believe you. But if you show me, hey, I'm a good person, I'm going to take care of you and your kids, I'm going to be there for you, and you show me that you are a person of integrity and I can trust you, yeah, okay, I'll trust you. So be a person of integrity. Be a person who's, when you say something that you're going to do something, go out and do that. If you tell your wife that, hey, honey, next week, let's go out on a date together. We're going to go do this, this, and this. You go do that. Be a man of integrity. The quickest way to get your kids to become a rebellious child is to say one thing and do another. Especially if you're saying one thing when it pertains to God. But then at home, you're doing something different. It's kind of like that old saying, do as I say, not as I do. Do as I say and not as I do. Where's your integrity in that? Do you even have integrity? Do what you say and do what you said you're going to do. Make sure your words line up with what you are doing and have integrity in everything that you do. If you're going to be the type of man who's going to go work hard at work and you're telling your boss, I'm a hard worker, you best be the hardest worker there at your job. If you tell your kids, hey, you keep acting up, this is going to happen. Be a person of your word and have integrity. Your kids are messing up, so make sure that this over here happens. Yeah, you got to be a man of integrity, because at the end of the day, that's who you are. Be authentic, be real. Show people around you that, hey, this guy lives the way he talks. I know for me, that's what I want. I don't want people to be thinking of, hey, oh boy, here comes Corey again. He's going to tell us one thing, but I know he's going to do another somewhere else. I don't want to be that type of person. I want to be the type of person to be like, okay, this guy's got it together. He lives what he talks, and he's influencing others because of that. Hey guys, I love you. Thanks for watching today. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like and subscribe button and go out and have a great day today. God bless you. Love you. Until next time.